Welcome back to New York Viewpoint. I'm Ken Rosato. Job loss is a major topic in the economy. For thousands of executives age 50 or older, it is a terrifying prospect that often has nothing to do with their abilities. A new book addresses this issue with information that is actually relevant to anyone who's out of work. The title says it all. Fired at 50, How to Overcome the Greatest Executive Job Search Challenge. Please join me in welcoming the co-authors, Tucker Mays and Bob Sloane, who have both served in senior management positions with many corporations. Gentlemen, does that title have any impact on you? Are you connected with being out of work at 50 at all?
We were, actually, and we found out in real time just how hard it is once you reach the age of 50 to find a job. There are many biases that you face, and we actually learned best practices and how to find a job.
What about, Bob, what about in terms of you talk about discrimination, the perception that, oh, if you're 50, then you're making too much money. We need somebody young, a go-getter, someone who's more aggressive. All these things come into play. What do you do to convince a potential employer that you are aggressive, you are a go-getter, and you're experienced and won't make the stupid mistakes a 20-year-old might make?
That's a good question, Ken. And there are biases out there. Many of them are unfair. And they range from the things you mentioned to things like the expectation is you're going to be very set in your ways. You won't have flexibility. Yes, definitely you will be expecting higher compensation. You'll have difficulty reporting to a younger boss. And there are others as well. What we recommend is to counter each of those and know that they're going to be on the table and know that you have to preempt them. And the way we say the best way to counter the issue about compensation is to really be open to taking a lower base and expect and look for opportunities for you to make other kinds of compensation. At this time of one's life, it's often good to take a step back in order to take a step forward once you're in a job. The age issue, reporting to a younger boss, this is very, very prevalent for someone over 50. And we suggest that if you're being interviewed by someone who's clearly a lot younger than you, try to cite jobs that you've had where you reported to a younger boss and you help that person grow. You help that person advance their career. And also cite references of bosses who you work for who were younger.
That's pretty powerful. Do you both each have many friends also who have been affected by this economy?
Oh, yes, many. And even the most senior executives with whom we work with our business find that because they've been recruited or promoted up through the ranks, that doesn't give them an easier chance to find a job. Most of these folks, because they've never looked for a job or had to find a job, don't know the skills they need. There's no correlation between the success in business and success in job search.
What are the myths versus the realities of being older, 50 or older, and looking for a job?
Well, again, the potential biases out there include other things like probably you won't have the most up-to-date technology skills.
Okay.
You haven't kept up. You will not be able to be flexible. You're set in your ways because you've become accustomed to a certain way of operating. And the way to counter those is to, number one, make sure you have the latest technology skills and go get them and learn them. And check with people you know in your own sector, in your own functional area, to make sure you're up to date. These are things that are going to be on the table even if they're not spoken. And so it's just wise to kind of preempt them, as we say.
And use age as an asset. 4 things: problem solving, people management, leadership, and decision making are all skills you develop over time that you have an advantage over those who are not as old as you. You know who to fire and who to promote and where to spend and where to cut. And you've made decisions over years that have proven correct. So you have those advantages because of your age, and we cite them in the book to use to help you.
What about starting one's own business? I mean, so many times you have so much experience by the time one is 50, and we're looking at a cover of the book right now on screen. So many people who are 50 or older have so much valuable experience. They should be running their own firm. They should be owning their own company. Is that the time to strike out and do it?
It's possible. And Tucker and I, having done this ourselves, we know firsthand what it takes to have a successful business. And you have to have a lot of things in place. You really have to be committed to being independent and operating on your own and not being part of a structure. What we do in our initial evaluation with every client is we get an evaluation of what they could possibly do, and we help them identify the pros and cons. And for some people, starting their own consulting business can be very rewarding, but not unless they have a very unique way of positioning themselves in the market, they're clear as to who their potential customer is, and so on and so on. But again, we've done that ourselves, so we're pretty conversant in how to do it.
How challenging was it when you started up the firm?
Well, it was challenging, but the number one thing you need to do is identify a need that is not being fulfilled. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean someone else is going to be interested in paying for it. So we identified a need that no one was really doing a good job of coaching senior level people on a highly concentrated basis. So based on the need, we then leveraged what we had learned in job search and defined this whole process in order to make it faster for them.
Somebody finds out on this very day that they're going to lose their job, and they're 55 years old, and they still have a good 15 years left, and they want to go out there and work. What are your top tips right now for those people?
The first thing they absolutely must do before they can begin an effective job search is to come up with an objective, to be able to be very clear about what kind of a position, in what kind of a business, having what kind of needs that you as an individual will solve. That is the most important thing, and it's actually the most difficult for most people. The second thing is to realize that how you spend your time is so important. Most people do not know that the job market doesn't all based on recruiters and published leads. Most of the job market is hiring through referrals and networking. And most people don't know that, and they really don't know how to network. So we put a lot in our practices to showing people how to network to get great referrals and not to waste their time on the lesser productive channels. The principle is essentially this. Your next job will most likely come from somebody you've never met before when you started your search. So the idea of networking to more and more relevant people that you've never met before, ultimately that's how people get jobs.
And how about the use of social media?
Yes, we recommend LinkedIn, particularly for senior level executives and for everybody. Facebook and Twitter still have not risen to the level that we would consider that for jobs. But LinkedIn is important for two reasons. One, most recruiters are now letting go their research departments and are actually using LinkedIn to find out about more candidates. And secondly, it's a great way for those in job search, Ken, to accelerate their networking database list. Gotcha. You should be able to add 300 people to your list within about 45 days using LinkedIn.
Fascinating. Yeah. Well, I want to thank you both for being here. It's called Fired at 50. Sadly, all too many people are being who are in that category, and hopefully that book will help inspire them to move forward. I want to thank you again, Tucker Mays and Bob Sloane, for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.